How good is the 2024 release of Bombergers, and is it worth your money? Let's find out. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So super excited to sit down and review for you today the 2024 release of Bombergers. This is a special bottle from Michter's distillery. It is kind of part of a pair. Usually you'll see it alongside Shanks, which is their sour mash, and this is their release that's kind of more experimental along with that one, but this is a blend of straight bourbons. We don't know that much about the bottle and what's in it. Unfortunately, Michter's isn't the best about transparency, where they're sourcing stuff from, but by and large, I've heard good things about these releases year in and year out. What do we know? So we know that, again, blend of straight bourbon whiskeys. They have told us that this year they're using some malted rye in some of the mash bills that went into this. That's been part of their new experimental stuff. I believe the Shanks this year leans more heavily into that. And then it's 108 proof, so we know that it's a little bit more proof than some of other Michter's products that you can get your hands on. And we also know that chinkapin oak was used in the aging process here. That oak would have been air dried for 3 years, so allowed to season really nicely. It's a special type of oak. I don't know too much about it other than it can impart some more deep, rich flavors. So we will see how that oak profile maybe comes across in this release. Other than that, again, we don't really know much about Bombergers. It is MSRP at $120. I paid $130 for it. So we shall see if it really lives up to that amount of specialness, that price, and maybe the amount of hunting you'd have to do to even find one of these. So excited to dive in. Let's go in on the nose, palate, and finish and evaluate this Bombergers and see how good it is. Okay. So the nose immediately jumps out. It's very oaky. Dark oak. Berries. Dark berries as well, like a dark raspberry, dark blackberry note. Feels deep, like it's got some depth to it. But then there's a little pop every once in a while of like maybe a honey or something butterscotchy. Really interesting. There's a nuttiness to it, but it's not peanuts necessarily. It's more of like a roasty, toasty nuttiness. I can't quite put my finger on what kind of nut it is, but it's definitely in there. And what I'd say about those dark berries and that oak, it's like, it feels very jammy, very like cooked and stewed down and kind of liquefied, and yeah. I can also anticipate a little bit of spice. There's a little bit of a kick to it. But the oak is very present and also very nice. I really like the oak profile this is giving on the nose. Makes me excited to dive in. All right, let's go in on the palate. Cheers. Nice. It's kind of an interesting roller coaster here. On the front end, especially blooming into the mid palate, spice, oak and spice. Good barrel spice, a little bit of like a allspice experience. The oak comes in nice and big and bold right in the middle. And then it takes its sweet time kind of fading and rolling into those berry notes and more of that butterscotch sweetness. So it really fades into that black cherry, blackberry, raspberry kind of experience. And then some of the butterscotch and the touch of nuttiness sticks around on the back end. but the oak was right up front, which is kind of what I got on those, transferred over to the palate. All right, let's go in for a second sip now that it's on the palate, see if we can pick out some more flavors. Cheers. Smells really good. Wow. Okay, cheers. Yeah. This whiskey, it's really, I use the word roller coaster, but I think that's because it starts off a little bit unassuming, immediately takes you up this massive flavor dial to big burst of oak, big burst of that blackberry stewed jam. Really nice in the mid palate. And then I do feel like it tapers off. The finish is much more mellow, but the spice lingers, gives it a little bit of staying power. And then again, I'm getting a bit more of that like sweeter fruit, butterscotch, and nuttiness on the back end. I don't think the finish is super long, but it's nice and mellow and invites me in for a second sip. Let's really evaluate that though. Let's go in on the third sip. We'll think about that finish. We'll talk about the whiskey overall. All right, cheers. Interesting. So there I did get another layer. Dark chocolate and more of that roasted nut definitely came through on the back end of the palate. In the finish, again, I'm getting more of that. A little bit of spice, does have sweetness, but now I'm getting more of a dark chocolate and nuttiness and that oak spice. Though I think the main point of the story here for Bomberger's 2024 is big oak and big blackberry raspberry jam notes. At least for me, that's what I'm getting today. And it's very good. The nose is great. The palate is awesome. That middle burst of flavor is great. The only maybe complaint I have is the finish isn't as long as maybe I would like it to be for something this expensive. I often kind of make the distinction between a really good whiskey and a truly excellent whiskey by the finish. I feel like a lot of whiskeys can bring flavor on the nose, they can have a great aroma, they can bring flavor to the palate, but it's like how long and how unfolding is the experience can take a whiskey to the next level. This is bordering on that excellent. It's the very good end of that, but I don't know if it's quite tipping over into truly exceptional, one of the best things I've ever tasted, because the finish doesn't quite grip me in the way others that are awesome do. So that's how I'd explain it. A great whiskey. It's so full of flavor, and if you love oak, and if you love those berry notes, a little bit of dark chocolate nuttiness, like it's got a lot going on and it's great. But if the finish was a little bit more powerful, maybe a little bit more flavorful, if that was sticking around a little longer, it would go toward truly exceptional. We'll see how it develops. We'll see how it opens up. We'll see how it does in potential whiskey of the year brackets. I think it's suitable enough to fit in that category of like, let's see how it does in some blinds toward the end of the year. But I'm really enjoying it. It's great, and I do not regret spending the $130 on it. I think it really is a very good bottle of whiskey, and probably worth right around MSRP given the current market. Would love to know in the comments below, have you been able to taste Bomberger's 2024 release especially, but also if you've been able to taste previous Bombergers. Do you enjoy this brand? Also with Shanks, have you had those? Do you enjoy this aspect of Michter's? I did have the opportunity to buy both the Shanks and the Bombergers for 2024, but I already had the Shanks 2023, which I really do enjoy, but I just didn't want to spend that much that day at the store. Ended up getting the Bombergers to kind of complete the set for my collection, and I'm glad I did. I think this one is awesome. Have heard great things about the Shanks though, so potentially a really good year for these releases. While I still have you, would really appreciate it if you hit like on this video. That's what gets it out to the most people. And then if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hoping to do a lot more great content, especially as the end of the year ramps up and we do talk about some of the best, most special, awesome, and just available and great releases of the year. Till I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and Cheers.